Hello everyone, welcome back to Nurse. So let's solve one more interesting problem from Uber Frequent 52 and let's see what the question is asking and how we can proceed with the problem. Okay, so today we are going to solve this text justification problem. Let me quickly read the problem statement and then we'll see how we can proceed with the problem, right? So given an array of string words and a width max width, format the text such that each line has exactly max width character and is fully left and right justified. You should pack your words in a greedy approach, that is, pack as many words as you can in each line. Pad extra spaces when necessary so that each line has exactly max width characters. Extra spaces between words should be distributed as evenly as possible. If the number of spaces on the line does not divide evenly between words, empty slots on the left will be assigned more spaces than the slots on the right side. For the last line of text, it should be left justified and no extra spaces is inserted between them. There is a note given. A word is defined as a character sequence consisting of known space characters only. Each word's length is guaranteed to be greater than 0 and not exceeding the max width. The input array words contains at least one word. Okay. Let me copy all the three test cases, then we'll first of all try to solve each of the test case and then we'll code it, right? Okay, so I have copied the first two test cases and now we'll try to solve the problem, right? Solve these test cases. So let me count the length of each of the word. So I have written the count of each of the word. This is of 4 length, is this of 2 length, an example of text and justification, right? So I have written the count for each of the word. Now let's see how we can justify this text in different lines, right? So let's talk about line 1. So let's start with line 1 and let's start with the first word, which is this. So this is of 4 length. Now we are left with, so we have 16, right? We have used 4 words, so we are left with 12 spaces, right? Let's move ahead. When we want to insert is, whenever we want to insert is, there will before is we need a space, right? We need a space and then we'll be able to insert is. So let's do this. So let's insert a space and we have to insert is. So it took 3 spaces, right? So 3, 9. Now let's move ahead. Now we have n is of 2 characters. So again, when we want to insert n, we need a space before n and then we can insert n, right? So let's insert it, n. We are left with 6 spaces. Now let's say we want to insert example. So when we want to insert example, we need a space and we need an example, right? So that means example is of 7 length and 1 space, that will be 8, right? So we need 8 spaces to insert this example. So that means we cannot insert example in this line. So now we are left with how many spaces? We are left with 6 spaces. So the question says we have to distribute these spaces as evenly as possible. That means when we'll insert these spaces into between these words, right, we have to insert them as evenly as possible. Now how we can insert it? If you will see, we have 3 words in this line, right, and we have 2 places to insert spaces. We have 3 words, right, and 2 places to insert spaces. Now we have 6 spaces left. If we want to distribute 6 spaces as evenly as possible, that means each place will contain 3 spaces, right? So the final string that will be formed will be this. 1 space is already there. 1, 2, 3 is 1 space is already there. 1, 2 and 3 and n. So this will be your line 1, final line 1, right? So we saw that whenever we after first word whenever we want to insert second word, we need a space with it. Whenever we want to insert any other word other than first word, we need 1 extra space, right? So now let's move to the second line. Let's see what the second line is asking. So line 2. Now line 2 will start with example. We'll start with example, right? So now example is of 7 word and it is a first word, so we can insert example as it is, right? Now let's move to the second word. Now it is off. When we'll insert this off, we need extra space and off, right? So we'll insert it, right? Let's move ahead. When we want to insert text, we'll be needing one space and then text. So how many spaces are left? 16 minus, first we inserted 7, so now 7, minus we inserted off with one extra space, so 3, minus we inserted text with one extra space, which is 5, right? So so we have just one extra space, right? Now the question says that whenever we cannot evenly distribute spaces, we will have to start distributing the space from left to right. That means that if we are left with one space, we'll start from this point, right? We'll start from this point and we'll keep on distributing the spaces. So example, one space is already there, one more space, which is this one, off and then text, right? Okay, so this is about line 2. Now let's move ahead with line 3. So now we have just one word, so we can insert this word justification. We have a dot at the end, full stop, right? So 16, the maximum width of a line is 16, minus we have already inserted 14 words, so we are left with 2 spaces, right? So what we can do, we can simply insert these 2 spaces at the end of the line. So whenever we are at the end of the line, what we can do, we can simply insert the spaces at the end of the line. Now let's see the second test case. So this is our second test case. Let's start with line 1, right? Let's start with first word. So we have what? Since this is the first word, we can insert it. 16 minus 4 will be 12. Now we are at this must. Whenever we want to insert this must, we'll insert it like this. One space and must. That means we need 5 spaces to insert this must. So let's insert must. And we have utilized 5 spaces, we are left with 7, right? Now let's come to this B. When we'll insert this B, we'll need one extra space and B, so minus 3, so we are left with 4. Let's come to this acknowledgement. Can we insert this acknowledgement? No, because the length of this acknowledgement is 14 and we are left with just 4 spaces, right? So now we are left with these 4 spaces. So we have to distribute these 4 spaces as evenly as possible. That means we have 3 words in a line. And we have 2 places to insert these spaces. So what we'll do, we'll come and we'll insert 2 spaces. So what? 1 space is already present, 2 more spaces, must, 1 space is already present, 2 more spaces and B, right? Now let's talk about line 2. So line 2 says we are at acknowledgement, insert acknowledgement. So acknowledgement is of 14 words. We are left with 2 spaces. Can we insert shall? No, we cannot insert shall. That means we can only insert 1 word. So now what we can do, we can finally insert these 2 spaces at the end of the line, right? Let's come to line 3. So now shall, insert shall. So we have utilized 5 words. So 16 minus 5 is 11, right? Let's come to this B. We have, okay, for inserting B, we need a space. So in space and B. So we need 3 places, right? So 11 minus 3 will be 8. Now we are left with 8 spaces. So what we can do, since we are at the last line, we can insert all these 8 spaces at the end of this string. So now after analyzing these 2 test cases, we can conclude something. Now what are the conclusion we can draw? Let's see. So first conclusion that we can draw is that 1 space is mandatory between word. Second will be if after inserting 1 space in between the words, if other spaces are left. Okay, so what we are saying that if spaces are left, if after inserting one spaces between words, if still there are spaces left, we'll try to evenly distribute them. And if after evenly distributing, we are still left with some spaces, we'll keep on distributing from left to right. Right? What other conclusions we can draw? If we have just 1 word, add extra spaces at the end. What fourth conclusion we can draw? We can draw that if it is a last line, no extra space between the words. So these are the conclusion we can draw. If we have we must have one space between each of the word, right? This space is mandatory. Second one is, if still some spaces are left, we'll try to evenly distribute the words, and if after evenly distributing the spaces, if still some spaces are left, we'll keep on distributing the spaces from left to right. If there is just one word in a line, we'll add all the extra spaces at the end of the line. If it is a last line, there should not be any extra space between the word. That means other than one mandatory space, there should not be any extra space between the words. Now let's try to divide our problem into these three test cases, right? So what we'll do, we have divided our problem into three small problems, right? What are these three problems? First problem with K words, we have one word and we have last line. If we have one word, append all the spaces at the end. If we have K words, what we'll do, we'll evenly distribute words, right? And if still spaces are left, we'll keep distributing the spaces from left to right. Second, what we are saying, that if it is a last line, no extra space, and if still some spaces are left, append them at the end. Now let's try to code accordingly. So first of all, we need a result. So let's initialize this result variable. Okay, so whenever we are exploring each and every word from left to right in the words array, we are storing those words to see if they fit to the current line. So we need a list of current line. We need current length of the string, which we are current length of the line, which we are initializing it as 0. Now let's try exploring the word from 0th index to the till the last. Okay, so we have initialized our current line. So first of all, the current line will contain words, the word which is at 0th index. So let's insert that word, current line dot add words which is at 0th index, right? And the current length of the line will become the word length, right? So words dot, so now the current line, if we are at the first line, the first line will contain 0th word, right? 0th word. Okay, now what we'll see, if now we'll start from the next word, and we'll see if current length plus, if it is less than equals to max width, if it is smaller than max width, that means this current word can also be accommodated by this line, right? So let's current line dot add, let's add this word and let's increment our current length, right? Okay, if this cannot be accommodated, if this word cannot be accommodated, that means if, let's say we are at this, right, and we know the current line will contain this what, comma, must, comma, be, right? What, comma, must, comma, be, and now this acknowledgement comes. So we know the previous line will contain these three words, right? So we'll have to process these three words and then we'll add this acknowledgement word in the next line. So let's do it. So now whatever is there in the current line, we'll process it based on our three cases. So if size is equals to 1, we'll do something, right? Else we'll do something. Now after this, what we'll do, we'll reinitialize our current line. We'll insert our current word to this current line and we'll update our current length with word side dot length. Okay, after doing this, if the word is 1, so let's create a function process line with one word, right? For processing, we need current line, current length, we need max width, and we need result for adding the final line to a result. Now if it is not 1, what we'll do, it will be having k words, right? Process line with k words. So we'll create this one more function. Now let's write these functions. So first of all, these function will not return anything because there should be comma. So whatever the last final string we'll have, we'll add it to our result, right? So let me create this function and then we'll see how we can, process everything, right? So I have written process line with one word, process line with k words. So let's do one thing. Whenever we are inserting this word, let's insert one space before it, because we know that whenever we were inserting, whenever after this, right, whenever we inserted the second word, we need one space and then we inserted that word. Whenever we inserted this n, we need one space and we inserted this n. So what I am doing, I am appending one space before this current word, right? So I have done this. Now let's move ahead. If we have one word, so what we are going to do, we'll append all the spaces at the end of the line. So first of all, let's find out the number of spaces, max width minus current length, right? Now when space is greater than 0, what we'll do, we'll keep on appending it to our word, right? And now keep on appending the result str plus is equals to space, and let's reduce the space by 1, and finally let's add it to our result dot add. Now let's see how we can proceed with this process line with k words. So first of all, we need number of spaces. So int space is equals to max width minus current length, right? Then what we need how many spaces we can evenly distribute. So let's say evenly spaces, let's calculate evenly spaces. Evenly spaces can be calculated how many spaces we have and how many places we have to distribute those spaces, right? So current line dot size minus 1, because if we have 3 words, we have 2 places to distribute our spaces, right? So in this case, if we had 3 words, we just had 2 places to distribute these spaces, right? Now if still we have some left, right? So let's say uneven spaces. If still we have some spaces left, so what we'll do, we'll take modulo, right? So now let's try to add this evenly distributed spaces amongst the words. So let's initialize I equals to 0 while I is less than line dot size string str is equals to, let's fetch out the current word dot get I in k equals to 0, while k is less than evenly spaces. What we'll do, we'll keep appending the spaces at the end of this string, right? So str plus is equals to space, increment our k by 1, right? And then finally we'll have the word with the spaces, right? So after doing this, let's increment our I, right? So what it is doing, let's see. So let's say we have this is and n, right? And we have 6 spaces. So first of all, we calculated the spaces. Second, we calculated the evenly spaces. So I am saying evenly spaces as this. So 6 divided by size of current line is 3 minus 1 is 2. So that means we can evenly distribute 3 spaces between these words, right? Now uneven spaces will be 6 modulo 2, which will be 0, because we can distribute all the spaces evenly. That means uneven spaces will be 0. Now what we are trying to do with this loop, we are starting from I equals to 0 and we are going till this point, right? We are going till second last element. Now what we are doing, we are taking str as this, right? And we have initialized k as 0. So when k is less than 3, what we are doing, when k is less than 3, 0 is less than 3, condition true, we appended one space at the end, we incremented k. still less than 0, we appended one more, incremented 2. 2 is less than 3, we appended one more space, and now 3. 3 is not less than 3, so that means we'll come out of this loop, we'll go to this word. Now again we'll keep on doing the same thing, is right, and since when we'll reach to this, the condition will get false and will come out of the loop. So now we have this with 3 spaces and is with 3 spaces, and we have n, right. Now what we can do, we can finally combine them. How? Whatever is the first word, combine it with one space is, whatever is the second word, combine it with one space and end, right. So let's do it. Let's initialize I as 0, start I from 0, current line dot size I plus plus, right, and append the result. Okay, let's say we have some uneven spaces as well, so let's do some processing for uneven spaces. Whenever uneven spaces is greater than 0, what we'll do, we'll keep on fetching the words. So we'll keep on fetching the word and we'll keep on appending the spaces at the end, right, and let's decrement uneven spaces, right. So after doing all this processing, we'll have to set it back, right. So let's do it. Current line dot set, at the same place we'll now put str, the updated str, and similarly at this point as well, right. Let's increment the I as well, because we are keep on distributing the element from left to right. Now we'll have to combine them with a space. So first of all, let's initialize a result string empty, right. So if it is a first word, right, append it as it is, else append it with a space, right. So first we'll append a space and then this word, right, and finally what we can do, we can add it to a result dot add str result, right. Okay, so we have done all this processing. If we have keywords, if we have one word, now let's process the last line. So we'll have something in our current line, right. So let's process it as a last line. So let's create one more function, last line, right, and then finally we can return our result. So now how we can process last line, whatever words we have, append them with a space, and then finally if you have some extra spaces, append them at the end of the string. So first of all, append all the words in a line. So let me copy this whole code. So what I have initialized the result variable with the empty string, right. Now what I am trying to do, I am traversing the current line word by word. If it is a first word, I'll insert it as it is. If it is other than first word, I'll insert one space and then that word, right. Now I'll append all the remaining spaces at the end of my result. So while greater than 0, what I'll do, and I'll keep on decrementing my space by 1, and then finally I can add it to a result. So now let's try to run it. Okay, and let's try to submit it. So what is this error? Okay, so I tried to debug it, and basically what we are doing, we have already included one mandatory space at line number 84, right, and again when we are appending each and every word together, we are adding this extra space. So we don't need this extra space. What we can do, we can go and we can simply remove this this extra space from this point, and now we'll good to go. Let's try to run this again. Let's try to submit it, and now it is accepted, right. So whenever you are getting something wrong, try to debug it, try to add some print statements, and you can easily debug it. So I hope you understood this problem, how you can justify your text, right? This is one of the very important feature in text editors, like we have Google Doc, we have Microsoft Word. So text justification is one of the feature for the text editor. So maybe sometime interviewer may not ask you the direct question, he may ask you the feature of the text editor, right? So you should be able to do it. You should know how you can greedily pack each and every word to a line, and you can distribute the words line by line. So I hope you understood the problem and you learned something new from this video. That's it for this video. Let's meet in the next video, and till then keep learning. Thank you.